Hello crafty friends and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are creating a very clean and simple card design with just the right touch of sparkle. The star of our show is that bold die cut sentiment paired with a fun stenciled background. Here's a closer look at the card that we'll be creating today. I used the Simple Star stencil and the Showboat thank you die from the new Happy Campers release by Simon System. Well, let's get started. If you haven't had a chance to check out the new Happy Campus release yet, I will have a link to all the featured products in the description box below. This collection includes some really fun and versatile items, including stamps, dies, stencils, and so much more. Well, let us take a look at the products that I'll be using for our card today. The first one here is this beautiful Showboat thank you die. This elegant set includes a bold thank you sentiment in all caps font along with a coordinating shadow die. It's perfect for your thank you cards, gift tags, or layered projects. For today's card, I'll be using just the sentiment to create a very clean and striking focal point. For the background, I'll be working with the CZ Designs Simple Star Stencil. This stencil features a repeating pattern of small stars arranged in alternating rows of 6 and 5, giving it a perfectly balanced and modern look. We'll be doing some soft ink blending, and to add a bit of sparkle, we will finish it off with a sparkly stencil paste for that extra texture and shine. For today's color palette, I have chosen a fresh mix of greens and teals, some of my absolute favorites when I want a calming yet vibrant background. I'll be using the Simon Says Positively Saturated inks in the shade Ocean, Surf, Perfection, and Limelicious. These inks blend beautifully, and I really love how the color families are designed as trios. It makes gradient blending super simple. I'm starting off by placing my A2 size card panel onto my glass mat. Now, this glass mat is by Glassboard Studios, which is actually a magnetic one. Now, this is super helpful when I'm ink blending or even when I'm using stencils. The magnets hold everything in place so that I can focus on blending without worrying about anything shifting around. I'm starting by blending ink across the entire panel. On the left half, I'll be working with the greens, beginning with Limelicious, which is the light citrusy green, and deepening it with the darker tones as I move outward. On the opposite side, I'll shift into the teals using Surf and Ocean, and I absolutely love the ink blend between these inks. One thing I always appreciate when I'm working with projects like this is that how easy the Glassboard Studios makes everything look. Especially after all this messy work, cleanup is an absolute breeze. After all that ink blending, a quick mist of water and a soft microfiber cloth is all it takes to get the surface clean. No staining, no fuss. Now, when I'm ink blending, I like to build my color slowly, starting with the lightest shades near the center of the panel and gradually moving out to the darker tones at the edges. This gives the background a beautiful depth and soft glow towards the center. It's the simple technique, but it does make a big impact. Now, if you're someone who enjoys ink blending and loves adding smooth gradient effect to your cardstocks or backgrounds, I highly recommend these positively saturated ink trios. Since each set includes a light, medium, and dark version of the same color family, it makes it so much more easier to achieve that seamless transition. Plus, the inks are super juicy and blend effortlessly even on regular smooth cardstock. Once my ink blended panel was ready, I moved it over to my ultra sticky mat for the next step. Now, you might be wondering why I'm switching from the magnetic glass mat to the sticky mat at this point. And well, there's actually a couple of reasons for that. Just like the magnetic mat, the ultra sticky mat helps keep your stencil and cardstock in place, making sure nothing moves around while you're ink blending. But unlike the magnets, here I don't have to worry about repositioning them constantly to get into those tighter spaces of the stencil. This is especially helpful when I'm doing detailed blending or adding texture paste to the same ink blended area. The sticky surface holds everything down evenly, edge to edge, giving me full access to the entire stencil design without any obstruction. So now I'm going to start ink blending through the stencil using the same set of colors we used on our background, greens and teals from the Positively Saturated ink line. The goal here is to deepen these shades right where the stars are. I'll focus on the dark greens and teals directly over the star shapes, which will help them really pop against that soft gradient background we created earlier. Once I'm done with the ink blending, I'm actually going to keep the stencil in place because we are going to add another layer, this time with a bit of shimmer and texture. I'll be using the fairy dust stencil paste from Fawn, which has a beautiful sparkly finish that catches the light just perfect. Now, before applying the paste, though there's one important step, make sure to thoroughly clean your stencil after the ink blending process. This is super important because if there's still ink on your stencil, it could mix into your paste and contaminate the entire container. I just give it a quick wipe with a damp cloth or rinse it under water if I'm not planning on layering. And then moving on, I will add my stencil paste or any kind of texture paste that I need to add on this stenciled background. Now, if you're someone who likes washing your stencil before applying the stencil paste, make sure it's absolutely clean and dry, and then you can go ahead and apply your paste, layering it directly onto the inked stars for that beautiful sparkly effect that really elevates the entire card design. To apply the stencil paste, I like using a palette knife. It gives me great control and allows me to spread the paste evenly over the stencil. But honestly, you can use whatever tool you're comfortable with. It could either be a dedicated stencil paste applicator, and even something like an old gift card or maybe an old credit card to give a smooth, clean application. Now, I'm using the Fairy Dust Stencil Paste by Fawn, and I absolutely love this product. It dries completely clear but leaves behind the most gorgeous iridescent shimmer, which really makes the colors underneath shine through. When layered over our ink blended stars, this paste adds just the right touch of sparkle to make them stand out without overpowering the background. Once I'm happy with the coverage and the amount of paste on each of those little stars, I carefully scrape out any excess paste back into the jar, making sure there's no ink contamination. Now comes the delicate part, removing the stencil. I lift it slowly and carefully, and you'll see that ultra sticky mat holds the cardstock panel in place. Nothing shifts or smudges, which is exactly what we want after putting in all that ink blending and all of that detailed work. Next, I will set the panel aside to dry completely. It is really important to let it air dry fully to avoid smearing the paste or dulling its shine. While our background panel is drying, let's move on to the sentiment. For this card, I'll be using the Showboat Thank You Word and Shadow die. I absolutely love having a good stash of sentiment dies, especially thank yous and birthday ones. And these beautiful scripty dies are some of my favorites to keep on hand. The size of this particular die is just perfect. It's bold enough to stand alone as a focal point, which is exactly how we will be using it on our card today. I die cut both the word and shadow using plain white cardstock. You could definitely use colored cardstock if you prefer, but I wanted to match the ink blended background, so I opted for a white so I could customize the color myself with ink. I decided to keep the shadow layer white for a nice crisp contrast and then added color to the delicate script thank you word. I started with the deeper teal at the bottom and blended it into the vibrant green at top, carefully merging the two shades for a smooth, beautiful transition. Since the scripty font is quite fine and delicate, I placed it on my ultra sticky mat while blending. That sticky surface holds it down really well, preventing it from shifting or tearing as I apply the ink. Honestly, that's one of my favorite things that I love about this mat is that it makes working with these tiny intricate die cuts so much more easier, especially when you're doing detailed ink blending like this. Once I finished ink blending the sentiment, I wanted to add just a little extra something to make it stand out even more. So I reached out for my Spectrum Noir glitter brush pen and gently brushed it over the ink blended thank you die cut. Now, this adds a beautiful touch of shimmer that catches the light without being too overpowering, just the right amount of sparkle to elevate the look. I gave it a few moments to dry fully, and then it was time to assemble the sentiment. I adhered the glittered word dye directly onto the white shadow piece using liquid glue. It's actually quite easy to align these two layers. The script fits snugly into the shadow layer, and with a little patience, you can get the perfect results every time. To help with the process, I used my reverse tweezers to hold the delicate word die in place while applying the glue. This gives you a steadier grip and helps avoid any accidental bending or tearing of those fine little details. Here's a closer look at our beautifully ink blended sentiment, which also serves as the focal point of our card today. I just love how all of it came together. The colors, the shimmer, and the clean design really makes it pop. Now that our background and the sentiment, which is also the main focal point of our card, is all ready, it's time to assemble the card. I started by positioning the ink blended sentiment right in the center of the background panel. I adhered it at a slight diagonal angle using foam tape to give it some dimension and make it stand out beautifully. Then, using liquid glue, I attached the entire panel to the top folding A2 size white card base to complete the card. And well, that's it. This is such a clean and simple design, but it makes such a big impact. It's also super easy to recreate or mass produce, whether you're trying out different color combinations or swapping in various stencils from your stash or creating cards for basically any occasion. This could be a thank you card, birthday card, thinking of you, or even a sympathy card. I especially love the tone on tone stenciling. It's subtle, elegant, and always delivers stunning results in a very little time and with very little effort. And that wraps up today's card. I hope you enjoyed watching this clean and simple design come to life with soft ink blending, a touch of sparkle, and a bold sentiment that really ties it all together. All the supplies that I used here will be listed down in the description box below. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links. So if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.